Welcome back, Camille. It has been 2 months, over 2 months, since Landon passed away. First of all, I just want to say thank you for all of the love and support. I don't think I would have been able to be as strong as I have been without all the amazing people in my life, and that includes you guys. In my last video, I shared his story with all of you. It was really, really, really hard to do, to sit down and film that and talk about what I went through. But I knew that it was a message that needed to be heard. I knew his story had the potential to help people, and it did. It helped so many people. I've gotten so many messages from people who dealt with mental health issues saying that that video helped them, and some even telling me that it stopped them from doing something similar. To know that his story had such an impact on so many people's lives makes me feel just a little bit better about everything that's gone on, and to feel a little bit better in this situation, I needed that. I know that a lot of you guys really care about our family. You've been watching us for a long time, and you've watched our little girls grow up. So I thought I'd come back on here and let you guys know how we've been and what's gone on, because a lot has gone on in the last 2 months. It feels like yesterday, but it also feels like a lifetime ago, because it really was a whole different life. My life is completely different from the one that I lived with Landon, and I'm gonna miss that life because I loved my life with him, even though it wasn't always perfect. But I'm just learning to love my new life because I still have a life, and my daughters still have a whole life to live, and I'm really just trying to do my best for them. After he passed away, he donated his organs, and then we had a funeral. We had a very small funeral in Dallas with his family at his mom's house. He was cremated, so we didn't have like a traditional funeral service really. Just people who loved him in a room together, talking about memories with him. It was really hard, but at that point I was still just so numb. When you go through something like that, the numbness just kind of takes over. Instinctually, your brain just won't let you feel that much pain at once. It is too much for one person to take on. So as a defense mechanism against that, you really just feel so numb for a long time. And I still kind of feel that way. It definitely has settled in a lot more, but I'm still just very numb. A few days after the funeral, I flew to Florida with the girls. We stayed with my mom for a few weeks before moving in to a new place with my sister. That's where I am right now. We have this place until January, so it's a temporary place before we decide on something more permanent. But this is where we are at the moment. Our dog, Ozzy, is with my grandparents in Texas until further notice. We miss him so much, but this place doesn't allow pets. Obviously, this has been the hardest time in trying to cope with the loss of the love of my life while taking care of 2 kids. There's days where it is so hard to get out of bed sometimes. But Delilah needs to eat, and Colette is asking me to make her pancakes, and someone has to do it. And in times like that, I am really thankful for my sister. Grieving is really hard work, and it's emotionally draining and even sometimes physically draining, as is motherhood. Both of those things are very physically and emotionally draining. So without the help that I get, I would definitely be a lot worse off when it comes to my mental state. Some days are really bad like that, and other days are alright. They're better. I'm starting to feel less and less numb as time goes on, which is a good thing and a bad thing, because in that numbness, you know it's there, you know you're feeling great emotional pain, but you can't feel it, and it's almost like a release to finally feel it when it does hit. And it's very like periodically that I'll just completely break down, and then I'll be numb again for a little while until the next breakdown. And that's how the grieving process has been for me. For certain people, anything could trigger them. With all the people in Landon's life, we've all been grieving differently. And his parents are definitely in that phase where certain things will just kind of send them into tears. I kind of hold things in more, which I don't really know if that's particularly healthy, but that's just the way that I cope. I've always been good at just kind of putting things in a box and letting it sit in that box until I'm ready to open it again. Otherwise, I feel like I would just be crying all the time. So to just sit in that pain every so often and just fully let myself feel it for that moment, knowing that that moment will pass, that's what I found to be the most helpful. Landon is the first person that I've ever lost. I've never lost a grandparent or any family members. I've never experienced loss before, especially not loss like this. So I had no idea when this all first happened how I would cope with it. Something that a lot of people say to me is, I cannot imagine how you feel. And I really couldn't imagine how I would feel either. Like I said, it happened and I was just so numb, and I'm like, how in the world am I ever going to be okay? But you just wake up the next day and you're there and there's kids to take care of and things to do, and it hurts. And I miss him and I'm definitely not okay, but I'm alive and I value life so much more now. Even though life is really hard right now, I value it a lot more. But before all this, I never could have imagined how I would deal with all that. It's something that you think would never happen to you. And when you see it happen to someone else, you think, oh my gosh, what would that even be like? I can't even imagine the pain they feel. And some people might think they know how they might feel, but you really don't know until it happens and you're there, and you don't know how you're going to cope with that. Everyone in Landon's life had their own role in his life. Some people he was closer with, some people he wasn't, and we're all just in different stages of this. And I'm not gonna lie, it's been kind of hard to navigate all his friends and family going through these stages at different times, at their own pace, in different ways. And sometimes those ways conflict with others. One person might be going through a phase of anger and they're mad at him for what he did, or they're mad at the world and they're just really angry. While someone else simultaneously might be feeling just great sorrow, and another person might be feeling completely numb. And so we're all just going through this at the same time, but at different paces. And I feel like because I was the closest person in his life, each stage kind of goes on longer. Like someone that maybe wasn't as close to him would have felt that numbness for a few days before it really set in. But the numbness for me has lasted a long time, and I think all of the stages are going to kind of last a long time. I've been keeping in touch with his parents. Of course, they're still Colette and Delilah's grandparents, and they're always going to be a huge part of their lives in my life. We FaceTime them as much as we can, and we're going to make plenty of trips to Texas so they can see each other. And really just all of us leaning on each other, because we're all going through this. And we all just miss him a lot, and we need each other. Some ways that I've found have really helped me to cope is just being around my family and my friends. I am so blessed to have such an amazing support system. I have the best siblings. Through all of this, they've been the ones who've really put a smile on my face when I did not feel like smiling. And we all just have such a close bond, and it's really special to me. Being surrounded by family is really what we need right now. Obviously, I've been going to therapy. That is something that has helped a lot. I go once a week, and then I also have a grief support group that I go to once a week. It's just a room full of people who've lost someone special to them, and we all just kind of lean on each other. And it's really good to hear that the way I'm grieving is normal, Like I said, everyone grieves so differently, but for someone to be talking about the way they feel and to relate to that and understand how it feels, it's really helpful. Especially when someone says something and I'm like, oh, I thought I was alone in that feeling. I also got a job at a restaurant, just something for me to do. Nothing major, I only work a few times a week, but it gets me out of the house, it keeps me from laying in bed all day, and I've made some great friends there, and it's good to just go out and be social and really just get my mind off things. It's a good escape. That was suggested to me by my therapist. She thought it would be good for me to do that. I've also been exercising a ton. That's been a great release to just focus on something else. Also been creating a lot of art and writing. I used to be really into writing in high school and I kind of stopped, but getting back into that again and writing poetry and painting. Just really therapeutic, and those are all ways that I found helpful to cope. But like I said, sometimes it's just inevitable and you really just need to feel whatever you're feeling in that moment. Going from a two-parent household to being a single parent has been a huge adjustment, way harder than I could have ever imagined, and that's even with the help that I get from my family. It really makes me appreciate all that Landon did for us. He was so helpful. He loved being a dad. Out of everything, like, he just really loved being a dad. He was so good at it. And so now to take on his role, not just hard because it's hard, but it's hard because he should be there. Colette is still really young and can't fully comprehend the situation. All she really knows is that her dad's gone. You know, one day he's here, one day he's not. She has no idea where he went, you know? She's too young to explain that to, even if I tried. You know, one day that's a conversation I'm gonna have with her, but as of right now, she just doesn't get it. For the most part, she doesn't really ask about him until there's something that reminds her. If she sees a photo, of course she'll point at him and say daddy and kind of look around and be confused. She has a Build-A-Bear with his voice in it, and she'll click the button and it'll say, I love you, Colette, in his voice, and she knows his voice. And she'll say, daddy? And she'll look around, and her age right now, it's kind of a blessing and a curse. Because on one hand, I don't really know if she's going to remember him. If she's going to have any memories of her dad, because she's still just really young. But I'm glad she's not having to feel all the pain that I'm feeling right now. And that she's not having to go through that. Because if she was a few years older and I'd have to explain to her what happened, that would be so much harder. You could definitely tell she was going through a hard time though. She used to be very independent, and since he left, she is very clingy to me and very anxious, and it's almost in a way that she thinks I'm just gonna up and leave her too. So if I leave the room to grab a diaper from the other room or whatever, she doesn't know where I'm going. She'll follow me and scream, and, Mommy, where are you going? And grab my hand and won't let me leave her side. And of course Delilah is far too young to know any difference, which is also very sad because at least Colette got some time with him. She had 2 years. Delilah only had a few months. And there's a lot less pictures and videos of them together. The girls have grown a lot since you guys have last seen them. I cannot believe Colette's gonna be 3 in February. It's gonna be hard going through, you know, Christmas, Thanksgiving, and then our birthdays, his birthday. We got a hard few months ahead of us, but we're just gonna do our best to celebrate in his honor. But yeah, the girls are huge. They're getting so big. Delilah's 5 months old now. She's rolling over like crazy. You put her down for 2 seconds and she's on the other side of the room. She's holding her own bottles now, which is really helpful when trying to get something done and she's hungry. She's just so full of life, has the most precious smile. She has those dimples, along with Colette. I really wish Landon stuck around to see this like phase in her life, because he's never seen her as big as she is right now. You know, he only saw her as this tiny little newborn, and she's starting to develop her own personality, and I just wish he could see it. Same with Colette. She is talking a lot. She's so talkative. She's able to like hold a conversation now, which Landon always said, like, oh, I can't wait till we can like really talk to her and we can ask her about things. You know, he was so excited to hear all the questions she has about the world. We were both just so excited to watch them grow up. Those are our little girls, and we loved more than anything just watching them grow. He always got so excited when one of them hit a new milestone. So it's really bittersweet now seeing them grow, knowing that he's not here to see that. I almost want them to just stay as little as they were when he left, because it just doesn't seem fair that I get to watch them grow up and he doesn't get to be here in person and see that. It's been a long time since I've filmed a video, and so I hadn't really looked at any of my footage on my camera, and right before recording this I found a vlog that we filmed that we never posted. It was the very last video we ever filmed together. Delilah was probably not even a month old, and it's such a special video. I'm so glad that I have that. All they have left of him at this point is those videos. I'm so grateful for all the videos we have. They're gonna get to know who their dad was. And a lot of people who go through this type of thing, when their parent dies and they're really young, you know, most of the time all they have is some photos. But they're gonna get to see how much their dad loved them. And it's really important that they know, because he loved them so much. And I don't want them to doubt that for a second. And I really hope that they know that growing up. And what he did is not a reflection of how much he loved them at all. He loved them more than the world. And he loved me more than the world. When bad things like this happen, you have to remind yourself that it's not for nothing. And God always has a plan. It's hard to imagine that there could ever be any kind of good that comes out of it, but I just know that God has a plan for me and my girls. And I think part of that plan is sharing his story and preventing other people from making the decision that he made. And I want to share that message with the world, and also just share our story from here on out, just about growth and overcoming challenging things. You know, I got pregnant with Colette when I was 16, and I started my channel to show the world that when life throws something challenging your way, you just gotta make the best of it, and you can overcome anything, and it's not the end of the world, you know? That's always been the message I wanted to share on here, is that no matter how bad things get, no matter how horrible it all seems, no matter how overwhelming it is, there's a light at the end of the tunnel, and you can get through it, and it's not for nothing. It's growth. And while this time is really hard for all of us, we're growing through this, and I can feel the growth as it's happening. I am not the person I was a few months ago. And while it may feel like I'm weaker than that person, I'm really stronger than that person that I was. I had no idea that I had this much strength in me. And it definitely took my friends and family and my family to really bring it out of me. But I'm strong, and my girls are strong, and I'm raising them to be strong girls. And we're gonna build a life for ourselves where we're happy. We're always gonna miss him, of course, but I just want all of us to be happy. And I want all of you guys to know that you're stronger than you believe. That pretty much wraps up today's video. I'm sorry for sitting on here and crying. It feels like the last two videos, that's all I've been doing. I always felt weird about crying on camera. It's definitely not the first time I have. I mean, especially when I was pregnant, you guys saw my whole pregnancy and saw me cry on camera. But I feel like now at least I have an excuse to cry on camera like a little baby. Thank you guys so much for everything. I have some things in the works that are coming up, ways to honor Landon and make a difference in his name. But until next time, thank you, and I'll see you guys.
Bye, Camily.
Bye, Mimi.